How Joe Rogan spends his millions. Joe Rogan is one famous person that has made a lot of money from various forms of entertainment. Joseph James Rogan was born on August 11, 1967 in New Jersey. Rogan had a rough childhood because his parents got divorced. His family moved around a lot from California to Florida before eventually they settled in Newton Upper Falls in Boston. It was in Boston that he completed his high school education at Newton South High School, from which he graduated in 1985. As a child, Rogan played baseball and even participated in Little League Baseball. However, his interests were mostly in martial arts, which he began to work on in his early teenage years. Joe was 14 when he took up karate and went to learn taekwondo. Joe was Massachusetts full contract champion for 4 years in a row, after which he became a taekwondo instructor. By the time Joe was 21, he had a total of about 100 matches and a black belt under one of General Chow Hung Hi's original students, Jae Hoon Kim. He also took an interest in boxing and Muay Thai. Joe Rogan is often described by many as a Renaissance man because of his many interests and the zeal which he pursues them. During an interview, he explained that martial arts gave him confidence and a different perspective of himself and what he could do. He also retired at 21 when he began to experience frequent headaches, which were a result of his fights. He feared that if he continued in that line of work, he might sustain worse injuries. After retiring from kickboxing, which Rogan considered being a career he would pursue, he fell into stand-up comedy. Most of his friends at the gym and taekwondo school convinced him to go into stand-up comedy because of how good he was at making jokes and impressions that were utterly hilarious. He listened to their advice and decided to become a stand-up comic. After 6 months of preparing materials and practicing his delivery, Rogan made his first stage appearance at an open mic night at Stitch's Comedy Club in Boston. His humorous entertainment characterized as blue comedy, earning him gigs at bachelor parties and strip clubs. One night, as Rogan was out looking for gigs, he was able to convince the owner of a Boston comedy show to give him 5 minutes of the stage time so he could display his new routine. In the crowd was a talent manager named Jeff Sussman. After the show, Jeff approached Rogan and offered to become his manager. This was an opportunity for Rogan, and he took it. Despite the fact that Rogan didn't really have a flair for stand-up comedy at first, he made a lot of dollar bills from his career. Stand-up comedy wasn't what brought him all the money he has today. It was just the very beginning. He has been a successful sitcom actor, the host of Fear Factor, a UFC color commentator, and the host to his own podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. Recently, Joe Rogan bagged a new multi-million-year licensing deal with Spotify, which is worth about $100 million. This deal has recorded to be among the largest licensing agreements in the podcast business. The deal is expected to make the Joe Rogan Experience podcast available on Spotify starting from September 1st, 2020, and from the beginning of 2021, exclusive on the platform. However, clips from the video will be available for streaming on YouTube. Now that we understand who Joe Rogan is and how he makes his money, the million-dollar question which he can afford is, how does Joe spend all that money? Well, considering his net worth of $100 million, Joe Rogan can be regarded as a rather conservative person. But don't be deceived, even in his consideration, Joe has quite the portfolio. Included in his portfolio is a $5 million mansion in a gated community in Bell Canyon, California. The 7,573 square foot property has 5 luxurious bedrooms and bathrooms, a swimming pool, and 2 fireplaces. That is definitely the definition of living large. To make money, you have to spend money, and that is exactly what Joe is doing. With his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, being a primary source of income, Joe has set up a multi-million-dollar studio where he produces his podcasts. This studio is located in a 14,000 square foot warehouse well equipped with frontline media technology such as industry standard Shure SM7B microphones, which cost about $400, and an Apple iMac 27-inch, which costs between $1,800 to $2,000. It is no wonder that Joe has the clout that he gets and earns around $100,000 per podcast. Not only does Joe have a well-equipped studio, but he also has a private strength and conditioning gym within the warehouse with a section for kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. The equipment that can be found in Joe's gym range from a weight bench to cardio machines and a wide range of free weights. Joe's gym is like a dreamland to muscleheads. But don't forget, this equipment is worth a pretty penny. He also has his own sauna and sensory deprivation tank within his warehouse. You should begin to have a clear idea of how much the stuff in Rogan's warehouse costs, and it should be a price with many zeros behind it. Joe Rogan is a hunting enthusiast, and like the Renaissance man he is, Joe has become an accomplished archer. In a social media post from a few years back, Joe revealed his stunning archery set, which includes an 80-pound Hoyt Defiant bow with a 27.5 draw-in that costs $1,200, with a spot hog archery sight to improve his aim. Other accessories for his bow include a trophy taker arrow rest, a bee stinger stabilizer, which is used to suppress the movement of the bow, and a spot hog smart guy release to help fire arrows accurately. Considering how invested Joe Rogan is to everything he does, my gut tells me there's a lot more from where that came from. One of Joe's prized collections is his growing collection of muscle cars. It is only proper for a focused and well-built man to move around in vehicles that complement his personality. The term muscle car is given to cars with extremely powerful engines. Over the years, Joe has purchased quite a few of these types of vehicles to decorate his garage. He has a 2014 Ford Mustang, which is an excellent sports car powered by a 305 horsepower engine. On the road, this car is nothing but majestic, and it is sold for about $40,000 to $60,000. Joe also has a 1970 Barracuda, which he unfortunately had to sell after the suspension fell off the frame. But muscle cars are not the only cars that pique his interests. Parked beside his muscle cars is the Porsche 911, which is known for its dynamics. This car is currently worth $190,000 and is worth every penny you spend on it. Purchasing a car like this obviously means Joe loves fast cars and is a classy guy. He also owns a Tesla Model S, one of the frontline electric vehicles today. Interestingly, Joe has personally interviewed the founder and CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, Elon Musk, and they even smoked some pot together. That might have heightened his interest in electric cars. He didn't leave out the German Beast from his collection. Joe has a Mercedes in his collection. However, his favorite car is the 1965 Corvette Stingray. It is a resto mod, which means it has been restored and modified. One of the team members of Pure Vision gave a detailed account of what exactly was done in the car. They began with custom chassis and modern LS powertrain fitted with a Magnuson supercharger and a custom pulley system with air conditioning. The fabrication was extensive throughout the car, with custom brackets and underhood steelwork. This ensured everything was aligned correctly. It might sound a lot like car mumbo jumbo, however, the mumbo jumbo makes the Corvette Stingray worth a lot of money. These are just some of the high-ranking cars in his garage, not all of them. Rogan also has an impressive watch collection, most of which comprise of Casio G-Shocks. This is extremely suitable for a guy like Joe, who is always on the move. These watches have a reputation for being the most durable digital and analog watches in the industry. On several occasions, Joe has been seen wearing a Casio Protect wristwatch and a G-Shock Mudmaster in some of his public appearances. Joe Rogan is also a great guy who is willing to help people realize their dreams by investing in them. These are some of the known ways Joe spends his millions. What we also know is if Joe loves it, he doesn't mind spending his money on it. That's it. If you enjoyed our video, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content.